My name is Greg Ayres. I am... You're gonna make me blush. I haven't even started my panel yet. I'm a voice actor for what used to be ADV Films, Funimation Entertainment, a division of the Navarre Corporation, Overtron 5000, Seraphim Digital, some other people and some other things. I've been lucky enough to be a person that was an anime fan who found themselves magically working in this industry one day. And it's funny because I wasn't always a dub fan at all. I used to be the little dub hater guy that was like, I'm never watching English, I only watching Japanese. That was me, that was totally me. That's what you get for being a hater. End up doing this for a living. I feel very fortunate because I get to work with some really cool people. I work for some companies that I love. I've been a part of some productions that I just feel super lucky to have been a part of. So yeah, I've done that for the last 12 years. In the last 7 years, I've become a pretty vocal opponent of digital downloading and things that are hurting the industry that I work in. And it gained the attention of some of the Japanese. I've gotten to talk to the heads of certain Japanese studios about that and what's going on with that. And aside from that, something that I've been doing longer than I've been voice acting, I'm also a DJ, and I've been doing that for 28 years, and I'm super stoked that I got to play for you guys the other night. Believe it or not, it's my first time playing in California, so y'all are my first time playing. So I've played in other countries, but not California, so I'm glad to check that off my bucket list now. So yeah, that's the hard part. The little introduction is the hard part. I guess I can tell you some shows I've been in. Y'all probably know some of them. Like, oh my gosh, I knew. If they start screaming, it's always going to be Oron, isn't it? Sayuki, somebody said Sayuki, yeah, and the good news, I don't know if you've heard, the good news is the original cast of Sayuki is going to be working on the OVAs now. So, take that, Reload Cast. So, yeah, some of my favorite roles would include Chrono from Chrono Crusade, Koyuki from Beck, Little Neggy Springfield, and I play a lot of whiny crybaby kids, which is really funny because I'm not that guy in real life. I am usually the one that my friends are always having to get me out of trouble, so it's funny that I play the little crybaby kid usually. But yeah, so that's it. If you have, like, this is the easy part. Now I turn it over to you and you can ask me questions, because that's really what this panel's all about. And you were the first. You were like, me, Mike pointing at me, yeah.
Is it like playing the Black Cat and Corpse Princess?
I love the Black Cat and Corpse Princess, thank you. He was asking about my character in a show called Shikibani Hime. I'm proud to have been in that show for two reasons. One, it was the first simulcast that Funimation ever did, which is a big deal for me as a piracy, fighter or crusader, because one of the biggest arguments people have always had for downloading crappy fan subs is, oh, it takes too long to get it to the United States, I can't wait 4 months, it'll just kill me. Well, now, Funimation has been doing these simulcasts that happen. I think with Shikibani Hime, we started about 2 weeks behind, but we eventually caught up with the Japanese, which was really cool. That being said, I play a cat. A creepy cat that got to do really my favorite thing in anime, which are the episode previews. All the narrative, next time on blah blah blah, and that's all the cat is. He's this little spooky cat. You find out later, no spoilers, that he's actually something much cooler than just a cat. But it was funny, everybody wanted that role. Guys, girls, kids, adults, old ladies, everybody wanted to play that. And Terry Doty, my director, she's like, I just gotta warn you, there's gonna be a lot of people shooting daggers your way. And I was like, really? And she goes, yeah, everybody wanted to play that cat. I was like, are you kidding me? Cat? Really? But, so yeah, I loved it. And there's a sound, every time he announces the next episode, there's a sound that goes, this little, he was like, next time on Shikibani Hime, the corpse that rises. When you hear this sound, well, every time I recorded the name of the episode, I would always go, right in the microphone, I just spilled my drink, right in the microphone. and it would crack Terry Doty up. So now every time she says when her and Steven watch it, they even make that sound. They'll be like, next on Corpse Princess, blah 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 blah, and they all like they make the sound. But it's actually a sound effect. But love that character. Totally cool little spooky weird one-off character. Yeah.
What advice would you give people wanting to get into your industry?
I'm so glad you asked me this question. It's a loaded question. I would say there's absolutely no way into this industry right now. This industry is in the toilet. Don't make that face. I've got a happy answer too. Just wait. This industry is in the toilet because people have downloaded anime and have basically killed this industry. And right now, most of us that have done this for a living for years aren't working regularly. Johnny Bosch, who's one of my best friends, says regularly, if it wasn't for video games, I wouldn't pay my rent. But none of us started off as voice actors. All of us started off as actors. Actors, actors, actors. Saying you only want to be a voice actor in anime is like saying, I only want to be a male lead that does the second act in a Shakespeare play. Well, you're gonna work this much. You don't set out to be just one type of actor. So the best advice I can give anybody that wants to get into any field of acting is learn. Go out, take classes, learn, get as much training as you can, observe as many different types of actors as you can, watch how people work, watch how people interact with each other. Know that this is an industry that is definitely based on people liking people, and it's not always a fair industry to work in. And the most important thing I can tell you, and you'll see the big grin wash across my face as I say this, you should not take acting lessons from someone who is your favorite character in an anime, ever. That person is an actor and not a teacher. There's a lot of people in this industry right now that want to make money off of all you guys. They see kids that want to be voice actors and they're like, hey, easy money. The best actors are not the best teachers. The best teachers are not always the best actors. And you should take acting from someone who makes a living doing just that, teaching. I love that. This is Mr. Inconspicuous hiding in the back of the room. Oh, he's not even gonna hide. He's gonna say, look, we got a seat for you right here. Oh my God, it's funny. I just realized what you're wrapped in a rim towel. Ladies and gentlemen, voice acting's Rob McCullum. He will be sitting right where I'm sitting in an hour. And I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna watch his panel too. But again, the most important thing I can tell you, don't be suckered into somebody's book on how to be a frickin' genius voice actor. Don't be suckered into taking some 1-hour class over Skype. Don't be suckered into a boot camp for voice actors. We did not learn acting overnight. None of us did. We've done our share of bad theater, our share of good theater, our share of behind the camera stuff, on camera stuff. There's no replacement for getting a solid foundation in acting. Now, I forget that I have the sound, okay. I'll put my tiara back in a minute. The happy thing is, while there may not be an in right this second into voice acting, that shouldn't stop you from trying to reach a goal. If it's a goal of yours, then you should start taking the acting and all of that now. And what I tell people is usually when you're following your dreams, you don't always end up where you thought you were going to be, but along that learning process and that creative, trying to get from point A to point B, you usually find out you end up where you're supposed to be in life anyway. My brother, who is also a very gifted voice actor and director, and he's been on Broadway twice, our whole lives growing up in theater, he was told he could never dance, ever. You can't dance. Oh, you got 2 left feet. You can't walk and chew gum at the same time. Well, but my brother was born with a top hat and a cane. He's like just a performer from word go. Like he came out of my mother performing practically. Just that guy. He was always meant to be on the stage. And he never gave up. And finally he had of all the people that would teach him how to dance, this is gonna date me. There's a show called The Little Rascals a long time ago. And there was a little There was a little blonde girl who was a tap dancer on that show. Her real name was Utah Brown, and she was my brother's dance teacher. And my brother is a phenomenal tap dancer now, but it's one of those things that it was finding the right teacher. So get out and learn as much about this craft as you can. You'll find that none of us that work in this profession just happenstance ended here. All of us are performers of some type, either musicians, comedians. Oh, one of my favorite voice actors, Rob Mungle, is a comedian, the bluest stand-up comedian you could ever imagine. But we've all followed a path to performance of some sort, and it wasn't had overnight, and it wasn't sold to us by some schlocky actor trying to make a buck. It was something that we really wanted to do and something we really worked at. Y'all can tell I'm pretty passionate about this answer. Mainly because I still consider myself an anime fan, so I figure somebody ripping you guys off is ripping me off too, so the bully in me comes out. So yeah, so learn, have fun. Are you in college or in high school or?
You want to do college right now?
College. It's not free in college, but it's cheaper than taking workshops after you get out of college. But theater departments in college are wonderful, and the best thing about actors, we're like gypsies. All you have to do is find a theater and say, I've got a paintbrush, can I help? Yes, sure, paint this wall. You can get involved with the community theater just by saying, hey, what do you need help doing? And you're a part of it all. So definitely get involved and work with all types of performance. Any exposure you can get is good. Who's next? Yes, again, yes.
What was it like playing the little character from, the only real male lead character from Burst Angel?
Kyohei. We have a joke about that. We always say that every time I can't out-wuss a character, like every time we think I've hit just the bottom of the barrel as far as whiny, crybaby, scaredy cat guys, there's a new one. There's always a new one. Kyohei was the whiniest and the cryest of all of them, and then right after him was the Pope and Trinity Blood, and it just keeps going downhill from there. But Kyohei was really fun because for a totally different reason than anyone would expect. I consider Kyohei a real standard type of role for me, just a little non-sexual, like, teenage kid. He's not that, like, horny teenage boy yet. He's just like, he just wants to be a pastry chef, and suddenly these women with boobs are all around him. He's like, ah, so that's a pretty, like, cookie-cutter character. What was amazing to me was one of my best friends, Monica Rial, who's been a voice actress forever and ever. She's the voice of Hello Kitty, for God's sake. She's never allowed to play anything but this character right here. And all of a sudden, she was Joe. She was like this big buff gun, bang, 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 and like, it was really cool to watch someone give Monica a chance to be that person once. And she's so good in that show. So like, I don't know, and the director for that show is amazing, Chris Bevins. He's been my director on Beck and Sam 7 and Spiral, a bunch of other stuff, and my new Dirty Panty show called Heaven's Lost Property. We call it Bevins Lost Panties, because Christopher Bevins is the director of the show. But it was fun for a lot of reasons, but the thing that really stood out about Burst Angel was Monica's performance and how phenomenal it was to finally see somebody go, you know what? You got this. Do what you want. Let's see what you can do with this. And it's neat. I just did the same thing. My brother cast me as an adult. I'm playing an adult in a show called Night Raid 1931. And it's cool to be outside of your comfort zone and to play something you don't normally play. So yeah, I love the show. I'm getting it on Blu-ray. It's one of the only ones I don't have on Blu-ray yet, but I'm gonna get it on Blu-ray. And I got to ride in the Burst Angel car yesterday, so I was pretty stoked about that. Yeah. I was taking pictures of it and sending it to all the different cast members. It was like, Monica, look at the Joe car. And I sent one to Clarion Hart, who's the DVD producer who plays Sai on the show. She's the very chesty other side of the car, and I was like, whoa. And she's like, love it. She just sent back, love it. She's at a convention in Columbus this weekend, but yeah. Who's got another question? Yes, with the pink shirt.
You said you play a lot of like wimpy and characters and stuff. What was it like going from that to Cowdy, who's a little bit more of a bully kind of?
Kowdu in Toast Club? I think you're confusing Kowdu and Hikaru. Hikaru's the mean one.
Yeah.
He is. The thing that I liked about the twins, I only auditioned for one twin. I only auditioned to play Kowdu. I did not want to play Hikaru. A friend of mine who had watched the show illegally had told me a little bit about what those characters were all about, and she said that Kowdu was the more zen, chilled out character, because he had been kind of a meanie once upon a time, because like when they do the flashback, he's the one picking on the girl and had done the mean swapperoo, but he's not that guy anymore. He's the like, guys, calm down. And so I really like that, because I normally play the little, oh my God, you know, like, so I like playing the guy that just nothing got to him, just like, all right, except for that one episode where they're fighting, and that was ridiculous. But I'll tell you the weirdest back and forth. I started the first season of Enigma while I was finishing Gantz. I play, and if you're not, and this is not a children's show, if you're a child, do not look up the word Gantz, but I play a 16-year-old serial killer in that show.
Wow.
And I mean a psychopath. I would go from playing that guy to Little Neggy Springfield. That made me feel a little schizophrenic. I'm not gonna lie. Because you go from 1 minute, this mean, horrible little kid who's like killing homeless people, to, hello everyone, my name is Neggy Springfield. You know, this little bitty like, and it's tough, but I will say this about what I do for a living and how one job can really affect the other. One of the last scenes, and this doesn't give anything away, but one of the last scenes in Gantz, my character is on fire. Like, totally on fire, and screaming his lungs out. There's no way to fake that sound. There's absolutely no way to just go, ah. It's just this horrible, like blood-curdling scream. He screams for a minute straight.
Wow.
And I did that take about 25 times. The next day, everything that I recorded on Negima had to be scrapped, because it sounded like this. It was like, hello everyone, my name is Neggy Springfield. It was horrible. It sounded like, now I'm gonna really sound old, it sounded like Brenda Vaccaro. Like, it didn't sound like a little child at all. It sounded like a woman that smokes too much. So it's one of those things that sometimes you can't do two jobs back to back because of the nature of one job versus the other job. And it's probably one of the more frustrating things about being a voice actor is, and when I go to concerts now, I'm the guy that's going, because I never scream, ever. Like, I don't scream at shows because that means I might not be able to work tomorrow, so. But jumping back and forth between roles is also what kind of makes this job interesting. You know, you're never the same, someone's phone's ringing. You're never the same person 2 days in a row, which is fun. So I like it a lot. Who's got, yes. Oh, wait, I've asked you like 3 questions, you. Oh, okay, and then I'll get to you. I pointed to the guy back there, but that's fine. We'll be nice, ladies first, and then we'll get to him, yeah. I love my character in Salty Ray. Thank you for asking about that character. That character proved a really important point to me. There are a lot of actors that want the lead in everything. They just want to be the big dude in everything. That character proved that sometimes the best characters are not the leads. And I won't give away too much about it, but you find out that my character is dying minutes after you meet him. Like, literally find out right after you meet him that something is horribly not right with him. But he's a little kid that is building a plane out of garbage, basically, and his only wish is to fly. Not only does he get to fly, which is super cool, but then he comes back as a spirit later on. And it's one of my favorite characters, and it's a really neat experience because we recorded it at Chris Sabat's studio, not Sabat. People love to mispronounce Chris Sabat's name. And Sabat did something really interesting that no other director's ever done for me. He applied the effects in my headphones while I was recording. So all that you know, that echo, that beautiful God echo that you hear when he speaks. I heard that while I was performing, and that changes the way it comes out of your mouth. Like, once you know that you have this extra dimension to work with, you can really have fun making sure it sounds really like ethereal and godlike. And oh, I love that character. And I think my sweetie buddy, Carrie Savage, is phenomenal in her role as well. But he was proof. He was one of my first characters that I ever had that was proof that even a character that's only on screen for this long really leaves you, like, can really leave an impact in the story. I did something very similar in a new show, and it's very controversial, called Dancing the Vampire Bunt.
Yeah.
Yes. Wow. Yeah. It's about here. I'll just explain why it's controversial and drop it. A 5,000-year-old vampire takes control over a 9-year-old girl's body. So it's a cosplaying vampire because she's pretending to be a little girl. When I auditioned for this show, the director said, "Look, you can audition for anything. There's tons of young guys in this show, but can I just ask you to read one specific role for me?" And I was like, "Okay." And he's like, "I've not let anyone else read for this part, and it's a really tiny role." And I was like, "Okay, well, what is it? Tell me about it." And after telling me just briefly about who this character was, that's the only character I wanted to play in the show. I did not want the lead. I didn't want a vampire or a werewolf. I wanted to play this little wimpy kid that for a brief moment in time was not wimpy and was soon cut back down to size. And he has the saddest end to his story. The first time I announced that I was going to be playing this character, I came into the room with the words Hiko 69 on my arm, and I say, "Well, you meet him in the 6th episode, and by the 9th episode, it's not a happy ending." But again, a character totally inconsequential to the overall storyline, but somebody that when you see him, you're just like, "Oh, this isn't going to end good." You know, like your heart breaks for him. So I love playing characters like that. It's one of the reasons why I think my character in FMA is funny, and I don't tell people that I'm in that show because people get all goofy about that show. But it's one of those things that I like playing smaller, weirder, funny, bizarre characters. The kinds of characters I might not play on stage, you know, like you don't have really roles like that in theater, not very often. Not super like, "Oh, you're a insignificant point of this show." So I like that, and Salty Ray was just a phenomenal experience, especially for the audio side of it. For for Sabin, and his sound engineer Raleigh is amazing, Raleigh Pickens, and they applied those sound effects, and it really changed the way it sounded. So, and that's why I love the second time you see him, when you see him sitting on the wing of the plane, I'm like, it's cool. I also made my director, this is the only time Leah Clark ever directed me, and I made her almost sick because of the sound that he makes when he throws up in the sink. I did that on the first take, and Leah said she didn't want to hear me make that sound again. She's like, "Oh God, what did you just do?" She was just like, and I go, I can do that again. She's like, no, that's fine. The only time, this is the first and only time she ever recorded me, and what would I do? Vomit. But yeah, so this is a great show. And now you had gotten overlooked in the last question, yes.
How was it voice acting with Sunahara from Kanata?
I love that show. I didn't like Sunahara when I met him as a character. When you meet characters, sometimes you're like, "Who's this guy?" You know? And Sunahara is such a wacky, ridiculous, saying awful things to women, and like, but really, like, he's the comic relief of the whole show. And I can't give away the whole second half of the show, but let's just say Clannad starts off a very silly, funny show, and it ends a not silly, funny show at all. It's very, like, the end of Marley and Me, kind of. yeah, okay. So, as the story was colliding out of bounds, anytime I saw Sunahara walk in the room, I'm like, "Oh, thank God. Okay, maybe I can laugh for 5." Because he really was the only thing that let you catch your breath towards the end of the show, and things were just so awful. I kind of feel the same way about Yamazaki in Welcome to the NHK. He's that guy too. Like the funniest thing about Yamazaki is I have a friend whose room looks just like Yamazaki's, and I called him. I was like, Nathan, I am working on a show, and my character's room looks just like yours. And he's like, don't you dare say Welcome to the NHK. I'm like, you know it's true. You know it's true. That's why you said it. I don't have half that many magical girl dolls. I go, you do. Yes. So, but Yamazaki's kind of that same thing. Like, as the story, like that whole suicide episode and all that, like, Yamazaki's one of the only just funny things to come in and break it all up. And that's kind of who Tsunohara is. I like that, Tsunohara, it seems like he would have a really sad ending, but at the end of After Story in the movies, I'm kind of okay with where Tsunohara is in life, and he's kind of the same goofy, weird little guy that he is, but I love that character. Like, to be a character that I really didn't like, I was just like, ugh, who are you? Because to me, he reminded me a lot of Yuya from Super Gals, but, you know, yay! That is, if you want to see Lucy Christian dork out, ask Lucy Christian about Super Gals. She will go bananas talking about it. She and I love that show. But yes, I loved working on Clannad. The coolest thing about Clannad is we started working on that as ADV. That was when ADV was still a company, and then suddenly ADV dissolved. It just disappeared one night while we were asleep. And we never thought we were going to finish Clannad. And then we started getting booked for appointments. And they're like, we need to book you for 4 hours on Clannad. And I was like, who is this? You know, like, what studio is this? And they're like, well, we don't have a name right now. And I was like, okay, is this coming out? And they're like, we don't know, but we're gonna finish recording this. And I think that was super cool because we kind of had a glimmer of hope that the show may, you know, get finished. And then we started recording. The weird thing is we recorded the movie before we recorded After Story, so you can imagine how confused I was. I was like, wait, what's going on? But it's really cool. I was really super excited we got to finish that story. That was one that I thought was kind of gone, you know. There was one other show that we were doing at that time that kind of that happened, but Clannad was one of the ones that made it, so I'm real glad. Who's next? Yes, this shy hand comes slowly out of the back. Yes?
I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but what did you think of your tiny role in Mushishi?
Mushishi, I'm trying to remember who I played. Oh, I loved that character. I really liked the fact that he provided his mom like an out. I play an episode character in a show called Mushishi. A little boy whose mother's brain or whose memories are being eaten by the mushi, and she forgets everything. Like, she sees a little hermit crab and she freaks out and doesn't know what it is. He sneezes and it scares her. Like, she's losing all of her memories. And he and his mother think that his father has gone off to earn a living for them, and he's coming back one day. And he actually goes out looking for him and find out that his father has a wife and a kid. And I think it's really neat because what was the sad moment in the show, like her losing all of her memories, when she finally sees that, she lets go of everything. And he makes that okay. Like, he's like, okay, you know, and he takes care of her, but the only thing that was steady in her memory was the image of him, and the minute that was gone, she just kind of, I don't know, it's a really weird storyline. It's hard to tell without giving away everything, but I liked it. That was a show that, especially being me, there's some shows that I'm like, well, there's no parts for little boys in this. And Mushishi was one of them. I'm like, okay, well, it's Travis and a bunch of people being devoured by this mushi. That really wasn't the case. There's always that one little kid, some little village kid or something. So I liked it. Thank you for knowing that. That's cool. Yay, yes. No, him. You've gotten 2 questions already. Hang on, I'll get back to you.
It's a little bit of a personal question.
Okay.
I've noticed that across different panels, you always seem to have a different hair color for each time you appear somewhere.
Oh, it's not that often, but I've had this hair color for like a month.
But what's the reasoning behind it? Is it just something cool to do?
No, it's just I've done this to my hair since I was 14 years old. I was the first kid to ever be kicked out of my junior high school for coloring my hair. This really is just who I am. Just like